Hey, I'm 𝗬𝗂𝘁𝗄𝗏, and you're watching Keto and Crime.
Hey everyone, welcome to Keto and Crime. Today I've got a very special video for you, going back to one of my favorite things to do, movie reviews. But you do know that on this channel, I only review a movie if it has a true crime twist to it. Well, this one does. This is a great movie that just dropped to Netflix on Friday, May 14th. It is a South American by the name of I Am All Girls. So, I think it's definitely pointed to point out spoilers ahead, so beware. But let's get into it, shall we? I Am All Girls is a 2020-2021 film directed by South African director Donovan Marsh, who is well known for his thrillers, his dark tropes types of movies, as well as television shows. He's well regarded in South Africa. This is one of his first movies to ever get a very wide international release, and I think for very good reason, because this movie centers around something that I wish, of all things, if I could just snap my fingers and have it eradicated from the face of the earth, this would be it. This deals specifically with the trafficking of young women and children into Epstein-like rings. I mean, it doesn't matter what I say. This video is going to be demonetized because Susan doesn't like us to talk about these things. But so I'm just going to say it. This is going to be demonetized. I know it is. But it's still important for me to talk about. It deals with the 500,000 to 700,000 young women and children that are trafficked into slavery every year in the world. And those are the only ones we know about. Amnesty International, as well as other organizations that try to put an end to this, have estimated there may be millions that we don't even know about. And of the 500,000 to 700,000 that we know about, only 1% to 2% are ever recovered. So this is truly an industry where we definitely are dealing with people that vanish off the face of the earth. In this movie, it tackles something that has been in the news of late, and that is rich elite people tied to these trafficking rings, much like Epstein and his ties to Prince Andrew and the Clintons and even the Trumps have dominated the news. But with this, which is based on a real-life case that happened in 1994, it was tied to some very high-ranking individuals in the apartheid government that dominated South Africa for so long. For those of you that may need a refresher in that, apartheid was a systematic way of government where, after the Dutch and the English kind of colonized South Africa, for a long time you had European, Caucasian people in charge of a country that was almost 99% Africans or black. So apartheid was ended in the late 90s, early 2000s, much to the efforts of people like the great Nelson Mandela. And the government was returned to free and open elections that would truly represent the racial makeup of South Africa. But this is uniquely tied to a 1994 case where 40 young South African girls, most of which were of the darker race, were trafficked into a slavery ring by high-ranking individuals in that apartheid government, and they were trafficked all over the world, especially into some sheikdoms in Iran. Now, remember, in the Middle East, nothing against my friends in the Middle East, but in a lot of the Middle Eastern countries that are heavily Islam, women and children have literally no rights. So a lot of this trafficking takes place in countries, and then they are funneled into that system where literally women and children can just disappear. So That was the sort of ring, and it centers around one young girl by the name of, and I'm probably going to say this wrong, 𝗬𝗂𝘁𝗶𝗃. And basically her first name stands for, literally translated, I am all girls. She was a young girl played by the famous South African television actress 𝗂𝘂𝘀𝗶𝗰-𝗖𝗿𝗁. And this young lady steals every scene that she's in, from first to last. But she was trafficked into this ring and was basically kept at a high-ranking South African politician's home. She was presented to the sheik with the other 39 girls, and he didn't want her, so he just kind of left her there. So she became a personal servant to this high-ranking politician, who basically used her up and then said, I'm done with her, and threw her back down to his hunters, if you will. These are low-level street criminals that hunt for women and young girls to bring into this this ring. And she was sold to a street-level brothel in just outside Johannesburg, South Africa, where she met a kindly, if you can call it a kindly, matriarch there, who was part of the ring, but was secretly trying to help girls escape. And she gave the young girl some, who I will call 𝗬𝗑𝗫 from now on, because I don't want to butcher her first name, books, helped her get an education, and was able to smuggle her out of the brothel when she reached the age of 17. So 𝗬𝗑𝗫 went out on her own. She learned martial arts. She educated herself. She became self-reliant and ended up working for the Johannesburg PD, where she meets Detective Jodie Snyman, played by another South African soap opera actress by the name of 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗲𝗁, who is a Special Victims Unit Task Force officer investigating potential child trafficking rings. She gets so caught up in these investigations that eventually her superior removes her from the case and puts her to investigating the murder of a local Johannesburg man who was found dead in a local park with initials carved into his stomach. So she begins investigating these murders that start to pop up. They think they have a serial killer, where you have all of these men of all races, of all levels, socioeconomic status, that are being murdered with initials carved into it. And as Jodie gets further into it, she realizes that a lot of the initials kind of coordinate to the initials of children that were part of that original 1994 40 girls that were kidnapped. And so she realizes this is probably tied to the very child trafficking ring that she was investigating. And of course, by and large, her and 𝗬𝗑𝗫 begin a relationship. They fall in love. They become very, very close. And of course, I think you see where this is going. 𝗬𝗑𝗫 is the vigilante that is going around and taking matters into her own hands, removing men that were part of that ring as well as men that weren't. Some men that she takes out were basically might have been low-level traffickers in another ring, but she's taking out people that are part of this whole phenomenon. And eventually, it's traced to more high-ranking people in the government. And the film has a lot of flashbacks and then flashback to present time. So you go back to the 90s with apartheid coming to an end, and then you flash forward to modern day. So you see 𝗬𝗑𝗫 as both a girl and a woman, and you also see as each murder unfolds, the initials of the child that it belongs to. That child's missing poster is flashed on the screen, so you know exactly who these girls are. Now, the murders themselves are, as far as I know, not based on a true story, although there was some killings surrounding this whole case that many believe were vigilante, but it was never tied back to one person doing it. So that part of the movie is dramatized, of course, for entertainment purposes. But They begin to delve deeply into it. The investigation comes under danger when some street thugs throw the local captain of the Special Victims Unit an envelope. When he opens it, it's pictures of his own children, so he's being threatened, and almost closes the case. But basically, eventually, Jody realizes that 𝗂𝗡𝗅 is the vigilante, but does nothing about it, and kind of begins helping her because she has some very good investigative skills. It all culminates in basically a shootout at a local Johannesburg airstrip, where this same politician is about to allow the 𝗥𝗍𝗃 to take off with 8 new girls that he's just trafficked. In between this time, we see Jody and 𝗂𝗡𝗅 in the official line of duty, not only busting different high-powered officials involved in this ring, and freeing girls from shipping containers and other things, but you also see 𝗂𝗡𝗅's vigilante strikes as well. And it all culminates with this one high-powered politician, the one that kidnapped 𝗂𝗡𝗅 back in 1994, all culminating in he and the 𝗥𝗍𝗃 and everyone as they try to abscond away with 8 new girls. I'm not going to tell you how that ends. You need to watch the movie. But I will give this movie 5 stars. It is gritty. It's got a lot of action, and it is definitely, it both uplifts you and drags you down, because you see some of the things that people go through. While watching this, I watched this with my mother-in-law, who actually had a friend that was a U.S. Marshal that was part of the Women and Children's Task Force here in Tennessee, and would tell her about women and children that were freed here in Tennessee from shipping containers along the Cumberland and then the Mississippi. So this is not just something that is happening in South Africa or in developing countries. This is home. This is happening to real women and real children right here in our own country, and I'm glad that movies like this exist to bring visualization to it. What can you do? Maybe I'm not sure what can be done other than raise awareness, donate to organizations, and there's many of them that that try to end this. That's one reason, even though I don't always agree with his politics and his religion, Dave Ramsey, I'm a huge fan of his, because he gives millions of dollars to an international organization that battles this sort of thing. Anytime anyone calls in on his show that is a young man or a young woman that may be having a romance with somebody, you know, online in another country, he gives them the talk about how this stuff can happen. So that's one reason I admire him so much, is that he gives lots of money to these types of organizations to stop this from happening. So, like I said, this is a great movie. If you're looking for something to watch at night this week, this is a great choice. Definitely parental discretion is advised. I would not allow any children to be in the room. It does handle some pretty heavy subject matter, but it's a great movie, and it really opens your eyes to a lot of things. And my mother-in-law and I were watching it, and one of the first things she says, I wouldn't be surprised if they found Epstein's stamp all over this case. And honestly, could be. I mean, I'm not a QAnon supporter. I've debunked their theories many times in some videos that I did. I'll link those up above. But I understand where the seed gets planted, because it always seems that when you break these traffic rings apart, it's poor people and street-level criminals that are doing the taking, but the masterminds are always these rich elitists. Always. So I understand where that seed was planted for that whole conspiracy. Do I believe in the cabal? No. Do I believe in a lot of rich elitist buttholes that have worn out every thrill they have in life and want to take it out on innocent children? Yeah, I believe that's more the case. But this is a great movie. Highly recommend it. It isn't fully in English. It's not dubbed or anything like that. It's fully in English, and if you want to see some great performances, some very gritty, hardcore action, I highly recommend this movie. Like I said, it just dropped on Friday. Check it out on Netflix. And with that being said, I'll be back really soon. I've got some great videos planned for you. I've got a expose on the WeWork fiasco, the cult of WeWork. I've got my question and answer video coming out. I've got Martha Stewart, and even a video by request from a subscriber, The Dark Side of Professional Wrestling, which is a huge thing that I'm interested in. I was a huge wrestling fan, so I'm going to cover murders and mysterious deaths associated with pro wrestling. So that's all coming out in the next days and weeks, and I hope you'll be there to watch it. And with that being said, till next time, Keto and Crime.